Do you feel tired? Well, the day is almost done. Maybe not. Maybe you still have to make some stops on the way home. But it's almost done, and it has been a long day. What all did you have to do today? Well, maybe you have kids, work, school, family, chores. What else? Did you get any time for yourself? Did you get any rest? How about tomorrow? How's tomorrow looking? Another long day. And it's been a long week. Probably you'll still wake up tired tomorrow morning. Perhaps just thinking about all that you've had to do today and will have to do tomorrow is already making you tired. So how about getting some rest? Just relax a little bit. Well, maybe not quite take a nap, as tempting as it might be during a sermon and with this repetitive voice that I have going. But I think that there is something to be said about it, that you come to church to relax, to get some rest. And if in fact you came here to do that, you're welcome. Remember years ago we went to Statesville and to look at the stained glass windows, and this was when I heard that the stained glass window, that center one, is referred to as "Come unto me, Jesus," because it symbolizes Jesus speaking to you. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. All who labor. He's talking to us because we all do that. We labor, even if it's not physical labor. We're constantly engaged in doing something. We stay busy. For some of us, busyness comes from a stage in our life. Maybe you're busy taking care of your kids, or maybe you're busy taking care of your old parents. Maybe you're busy taking care of your spouse. Maybe it's your job that keeps you busy, not only during the business hours, but even afterwards, because it's so often hard to leave that work behind and not to take it home. Sometimes we kind of like being busy. It creates an idol out of the tasks that we do and the responsibilities, because it somehow makes us feel important if we are in demand in so many places, or busy taking care of something or somebody, or suggesting that, you are a better parent if you're constantly busy and you keep your children busy doing all kinds of activities. How about the heavy laden part? You get this picture of carrying this heavy load. And some of us just can't carry that load like we used to. At some point you notice that your body is worn out from all the abuse that you've put it through. Maybe through the poor choices that you've made. Sometimes the abuse comes from all the circumstances and events in your lives. Sometimes it's abuse came from other people. If not physical, then emotional kind, that has made us tired and wounded. We are exhausted and worn out. It's been observed, I hear it again and again, and there's all kinds of different ways that people try to combat it, but generally we don't get enough sleep, they say. That's why we wake up tired, and we need to get going. So what do? We just drink lots of caffeine because we're so tired. We're tired in the middle of the day, and so we need to get energized with energy drinks or sugar drinks. We run out of strength, but instead of doing the right thing, we substitute it with lots of calories. Not just our bodies, but what about our minds? Our minds are overloaded and stressed out, but instead of doing something healthy, we try to numb our minds with TV and internet, or maybe alcohol and drugs. But what we really need is rest. And God gives us that. In fact, the Third Commandment is a very lengthy one. I'm going to read it to you out of Exodus chapter 20. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the seventh day and made it holy. Note how much information is included with this commandment. Compared to all the terse ones that we've covered so far, you shall not murder, period. You shall not commit adultery, period. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. That's it. No explanation is given to any of those commandments. Maybe the Lord is trying to tell us something by giving us so much information attached with this, the third commandment. And note how the Lord uses himself as an example. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Isn't it fascinating how God, who is almighty and is all-powerful, he still needed rest? Just think about it. If God stops work and rests, how much more is rest needful for us? Also note that this is a special kind of rest. Not the kind of rest with a bag of chips on the couch in front of the TV, or with one eye blocked by the pillow as you look at the smartphone screen. This is a rest about keeping it holy. It's about a day, a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In Hebrews chapter 4, it says, "So then there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For whoever has entered God's rest has also rested from his works, as God did from his." So he talks about entering into this God's rest. You enter into God's rest on that Sabbath day. Where do you do that? You do it right here. As Jesus welcomes you into his presence, "Come to me, all who labor and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." He gives you rest that restores you. Think about it. We're going to remember it especially tomorrow. But those words, "It is finished," Jesus declared on the cross, because all the work was done. That means that no matter where you find yourself, tired and burdened, God is going to meet you there. When you feel like you have nothing left to offer, Jesus gives you exactly what you need. When you've pushed yourself to the limits, just trying to do a little bit more, Jesus steps in and says, "It is finished." And he reminds you that your worth does not come from what you do, your busyness, your tasks. Your worth comes from His work alone, and it is finished. Then the writer to the Hebrews goes on, "Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need." One thing that goes out usually when you're tired is your confidence. I don't know what you do. I've been running every day basically for the last 2 years. But there's still days when my body, my flesh, if you will, says, "Nah, you can't run today. You're too tired." Or a mile or two into the run, going up the hill, I just did it about 3 hours ago in the Riverbend Park. The muscles tell you, you will never make it up the hill. What are you struggling with? What hills are you running or climbing? The flesh will tell you, you can't make it. You can't quit that addiction. You can't fix a broken relationship. You're not going to make it in this marriage. You're not a good worker. You're failing as a parent. When your tiredness makes you question yourself and your value as a spouse, as a parent, as a worker, Jesus offers you an opportunity to rest and know that your value is found in Him. When you're so tired of the verbal assaults that tell you that you're nothing more than what has been done to you or said about you, Jesus offers you an opportunity to rest and to know that you are His. That same Hebrews passage says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin." Jesus knows exactly what it's like to be tired and exhausted from physical and verbal attacks. Just think about on this, the day before His death, Jesus understood what it's like to dread the events of the next day, to experience the rejection of His closest friends, and to see everything crumble around Him. As He is about to struggle with the temptation to quit, to avoid the pain, as He is about to be betrayed, as He is about, He's preparing Himself to be tired, to be exhausted by an onslaught of verbal, physical, emotional, and psychological attacks. Is He about to climb that hill to Golgotha, tired of all the beating? In the midst of all of this, He rests with His disciples, and He gives His body and His blood to sustain and strengthen their weary bodies and souls. So wherever you are, whatever the pain, whatever the hurt, whatever the exhaustion, Jesus calls out to you in the midst of it all, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Amen.